All right, good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Tonight's meeting, and in the beginning, we're going to do the Wakefield High School project, and we're going to have an introduction to SMMA, who has been decided to be the architect for the high school, and they've been awarded that through the MSBA and the selection panel. So I thought the best to do is to begin with them. Shane, I've made you a co-host. Lorraine, are you there?
I am here, Joe. Good evening.
Right. Who do you wish to be made the co-host if you have anything? If you have
yeah, Joe, I think we'll hand it over to Lorraine and her team, and then maybe when she wraps up, I've just got some administrative stuff.
I know who I need to know who's the co-host. Lorraine, you are?
Yep, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, great.
All right. So before
let me you got it.
All right.
So if you wish to begin and
sure
do a presentation, whatever, and at the end of it, if people have questions, please raise your hand as done through the Zoom, and we'll try to answer any questions you may have. All right, Lorraine.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna make sure everyone can see the screen, the slideshow in presentation mode.
Yep.
So good evening. We are very excited to be here tonight. We are SMMA out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, architects and engineers. We have a couple of topics we want to talk about tonight. One, we wanted to give an abbreviated version of our interview presentation that was presented to the MSBA. We also want to talk a little bit about the process for feasibility and schematic design, existing conditions, have a quick discussion about visioning and the visioning process and whether that should be virtual or in person and the pros and cons of both. And then talk about a community forum to kick this off and a potential date for that. So with that, I'm going to take you through our team who's with us tonight. I am Lorraine Finnegan. I am your principal in charge. David?
And good evening. I'm David Stephen, the educational programmer on the team.
Bill?
Sorry, Phil Poinelli, architect and educational planner.
Martine?
Martine Dion, Director of Sustainable Design at SMMA.
Erin?
Hi, how are you? I'm Erin Prostilio, civil engineer.
Andy? Sorry, Michael. I missed Andy. I'll come back.
Hi, everybody. Michael Pardek. I'm a designer and architect.
Andy? Is Andy on? I'll come back to Andy. Matt?
Hi, Matt Rice, project architect.
Helen?
Helen Fantini, project manager.
All right. And I think Andy is not on with us yet, so we'll get started. So I hear a ding. I assume that's people being let into the meeting, so it's not my phone. So when we presented this to the MSBA, we wanted to open with, the MSBA has known us for a long time. We've worked with them since 2004. But we really wanted Wakefield to know who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And truly, we share just a passion for designing schools. And as educational planners, architects, and engineers, we feel it's not just our responsibility, but it's our belief that we have an impact on every Wakefield student, staff, parent, and community member who will walk through your doors for generations to come. We love what we do. We get to design places to learn and grow that are safe and inviting. We get to design places that foster creativity, student agency, and collaboration. And I feel very grateful every day when I wake up that I get to work on school buildings. I've worked on schools for over 23 years at SMMA. It is a passion that we share, this team that we're presenting to you tonight. We've worked together for probably over 15 years, this team alone. And we take it very seriously. We understand the impact we have. We also understand the impact high schools have. They're a flagship project for most communities. They last a long time, and we need to stay motivated and stay your partner throughout all of this. And we truly do that because the very first day your school opens is one of the most exciting days for us. Seeing those students walk through those doors, which I've done many times, really makes it so beneficial and really makes us proud that we can have an impact in your community. So I'm going to let the team take you through again. We're going to do slightly abbreviated. We're happy to go over any details that you want, but this was a 30-minute presentation, and I want to save some time for if you have questions for us, as well as to go through some other aspects to kick us off. So Erin is going to start us off with talking about, how we do this, how we design schools, what it means, and the ideas that we'll expand upon and elaborate with you. Erin.
Thanks, Lorraine. So obviously for me, I'm a civil engineer. These are really special. The site is really, for me, what it's all about. We start by reviewing existing conditions of sites. That really helps us identify constraints so that we can find opportunities and incorporate those into these projects. We've seen your site. You're very familiar with it. It is where your kids go to high school today. And it's also surrounded by all of these fields. You have the Beasley Oval, Megan Burnett softball field, the Walsh Field, Dobbins tennis courts, and Landergan Field. Oh, Lorraine, if you want to flip to the next slide, I'm sorry. Here we are. So here's your site. You know it well. There's some areas of steeper topography to the south, but all of these things make up kind of conditions that provide a basis for design. And for what's exciting for me, at first glance, there's no obvious immediate place for a new building, but this is so often where districts start off. We're going to work with you to develop a matrix, though, that considers impacts to education, community resources, field space, and of course, analyzes costs. We've worked with districts that prioritize things differently. For example, some districts place the utmost importance of having no impact and disruption to the educational experience of their high school students, while others realize, through this process that the environment of modulars can be in some strange way an upgrade to their environment in the building. The project will bring you and the community a 21st century high school. It's going to be beautiful. It will have outdoor spaces to learn, to gather and play. It will provide safe circulation and adequate parking, but what's most challenging and exciting for me, though, is how we get there. So the Home Renewed scheme was our idea on a phased renovation of the project. Addition renovation. And for site, that means careful consideration of logistics. It's how you site modulars, keeping construction activity completely separate from school activity, and maintaining safe and functional arrival and dismissal. The next idea was using our model school. It places a new building right behind the existing school, which again, we need to carefully consider some different kinds of construction logistics. And the last idea was the Woven Campus, and it presents a completely reimagined campus, as the name implies. It's a new building and consolidated community spaces for recreation and play. And this would probably offer least impact on the students during construction while the new building is being built.
So those three ideas that Erin just went through, they're really just the first steps on the path of exploration. We know they're neither final nor yet informed by the process that we have to go through with you over the coming months. But what we're going to do tonight is really share the ideas and illustrate the potential that we see. And hopefully we can provide a framework for discussion moving forward. So if you go to the next slide, Lorraine. So what we want to start with is looking at the addition renovation scenario, the home renewed option. And really any study of an ad reno option, we have to start with an open mind and really try to figure out what's possible. We know that they're going to be high value in the assets, high value assets in the school that we want to try and maintain. And we have to understand what can contribute now and can continue to contribute in the future. And we have to understand also what is really standing in the way of our goals. Because phase construction is certainly complex. We have a lot of experience doing it successfully on different projects, and really we bring that expertise to this project. And the critical issues, I think Erin mentioned a few of them, are really all interrelated. There's the schedule, there's the modular classrooms, both their cost impact as well as their physical location. There is the issue of contingencies, accessibility, code compliance, and then also providing really a meaningful project at the end of the day that fully integrates existing and new construction.
Thanks, Matt. So this is Michael again, and I'm going to take you through the three initial ideas, and we'll start to kind of spin around them here. So let's first consider that the existing school, we know it's got a square footage that exceeds the current guidelines. And knowing that, we really asked ourselves this question is, how can we create a more efficient footprint for the school? And what opportunities and relationships could come out of that? You know, obviously we'll want to address the functional improvements, you know, bringing clarity to arrival and departure, creating additional parking, and designing accessible pedestrian movements, not only through the building, but across campus. We think that's a really important goal for the project. And then, you know, as we look deeper at this possibility, you know, we discovered that perhaps making this physical connection between Farm Street and Beasley Oval, and that as you enter the new school through the front door, you'd move past the auditorium into this bustling dining commons, which in our schools is this hub of activity. It's used before, during, and after school, and it might even occupy that former courtyard space. And then as you emerge from the commons, you're greeted by this modern schoolyard, and it's an extension of that dining common space, and could have spaces for learning and recreation, for gathering and reflection. So it's not really just a transformation of a wing of the school or just a facade. It's really trying to recast the whole story so that it is truly a new school and a new site, and it's a purposeful arrangement of accessible educational and community spaces. So moving on to the second idea was really taking a model school that we have done for Grafton High School, and imagining for a moment that we could use the site of Beasley Oval as the site. So we envision a school that's really nestled into this eastern edge of the campus. There's the two academic wings to the north, and that leads us to this fan-shaped dining commons again. And that could have, we think, pretty spectacular views of the wooded hillside beyond. And then in the foreground there, you see the athletics and health wing, which gives it really good adjacencies to Landrigan Field and the tennis courts and Walsh Field. And walking around the front of the school, you know, we have a pretty generous plaza that could welcome everyone, whether they arrive by bus, car, or foot. And then we see an administrative wing, which kind of has a presence over the plaza and the entry. And, you know, in our schools, we're able to separate dining commons and auditorium and gymnasium from the academic wings for after hours use. So it's really about repositioning the center of gravity, moving the school to the back of the site. And then in the future, perhaps re-envisioning Beasley Oval as a community-facing asset that is that's facing Farm Street. And then the third idea is we're calling the woven campus. And this is really taking a different look. So we start at Walsh Field and Dobbins Tennis Court. And our first proposal would be to shift Hemlock Road so it aligns with Nahant Street to really improve that intersection and make it make it really safe. In the foreground, you could see the gymnasium. And again, it's got really good adjacencies to all the fields. We have the classroom pods, which are separated by this courtyard, looking to the south, so that gets really good daylight. And then coming around, it's kind of completed with the science classrooms. And adjusting the road there really gave us the ability to capture some parking on the site and a pretty generous drop off. And then once the existing school is demolished, then we have a really exciting opportunity for the community to reimagine that quad over there. And we've been showing it as seeing it more as a wellness quad with a new ball field, tennis courts, paths, and everything like really woven together so that it feels like one campus connected to the school and connected to the new wellness area. And I think I will turn it over to Martine now.
Thank you, Mike. So MSBA requires that projects have to be LEED certified and higher level and with high performance goals for energy performance. And we understand Wakefield has an interest to explore beyond that. We're going to be looking at obviously higher level of LEED certification, silver, gold. We're also going to be looking at net zero energy. We understand there's an interest with that. And that next Lorraine could, and that kind of really doves in well with the upcoming net zero, the easy stretch code, which is the net zero energy code, which will likely be mandated at the end of 2022. And then, of course, our sustainability approach is inclusive of wellness beyond energy and near and dear to us, environmental literacy. This is for the students and their jobs of the future. Next. So we will explore what a net zero energy building is. Robust enclosure. This is going to be throughout the early design process. Robust enclosure, all electric heating, controls, user-friendly controls, and of course, clean energy, making sure your building is ready for photovoltaic, solar photovoltaic, and as well as electric charging station for vehicles. And one of our process to achieve this is life cycle cost analysis. These are 3 examples of our projects that show the feasibility of high performance and net zero energy. And the life cycle analysis process will help show how we can achieve high level of carbon reduction. These examples show we on average on our projects, we're achieving between 25 and 48% carbon reduction. And we're achieving this with paybacks between 2 and 12 years and with incremental costs that are very, very, very achievable, around 1% and as low as 0.3%. And part of the way to which we're going to achieve this is with the all electric HVAC equipment. And we're looking forward to do life cycle cost analysis at each phase of the design analysis. And I don't know if Andy has joined us. Yes.
Okay. Andy did join us.
I have. Sorry to be late. Andy Olderman, mechanical engineer. So what we talked about during the interview was just the idea of keeping things simple. Certainly, as we are looking for more and more energy savings in buildings, that tends to draw us into using our control systems and putting layer upon layer within the control system to, in order to save incrementally more energy. And some of that is unavoidable, but in a lot of cases, there are choices that we can make with you to help still strive to keep the system simple, because in my mind and my experience, more a simpler system is more robust, it's more reliable. It's quite easy once, if you're in a building that has very complex control systems, if one aspect of that control system is not working the way it ought to, you suddenly are chasing your tail in doing all sorts of troubleshooting just to unravel all of that and figure out what the problem is. So the goal is energy efficiency, it's comfort control, it's quality ventilation, and energy savings.
So this is my turn. Hi, this is Helen again. Good evening, everyone. So we believe that schools, and especially high schools, Lorraine calls the high school the flagship, right, are the community's buildings. And that's why engagement is so important when we start a relationship with a new district. And so it's our opportunity to learn about your needs, hopes, and desires for your new Wakefield Memorial High School. So we will work in partnership with all of you, students, educators, parents, the town leaders, people who know and care most about Wakefield and its future. And an important piece of this will start in the schools, and David will talk more about the educational visioning engagement. But we love to involve students in our projects. You can go to the next, Lorraine. This is an example from our Somerville High School project, where we partnered with the school's art department and asked students to create collages that talked about what was important to them about their community. And these graphics, these were turned into environmental graphics that are showcased throughout the building. You can go to the next. So engagement will be frequent, but it should be appropriately timed. And that's where your input will be so important. There may be opportunities to come to in-person events in town where setting up a table, meeting people, chatting with them, letting them get to know us will make some sense. But here we are virtually, right? We've learned a lot this year of COVID, year plus of COVID, where we've had to rely on digital means of communication, community meetings. Actually, and our projects have been better attended when you don't have to travel or find childcare for those with young children. So with this increase in digital literacy and better tools, there are some real opportunities. And again, I think we'd like to talk about that a little bit as we think about a community forum. It can really be more inclusive in many ways. And one of the tools that we plan to use is digital polling that we can do during meetings to make sure people can participate, especially if they don't feel comfortable stepping up to a microphone and talking in front of a large group of people. You can go to the next, Lorraine. And one of the things we talked about in the interview, and we're already at work on, and we're coordinating with Left Field on, is this idea of a website, right? Taking in our data and our programming and the information we get from the processes that we're going to go through with everyone, and making it very accessible to everyone in town. So that way, when it comes time to vote on the project, everyone is well informed, and it's not a surprise to a community that's going to be asked to, pay more tax. So we're looking forward to working with you.
So as we heard leading into the project several times, accessibility is really going to be a key consideration for the new high school. And for us, really, that's just foundational in terms of good design. At a basic level, it means that we have to comply with codes as well as the ADA. And it means that we have to incorporate things like ramps, elevators, sloped walkways, things to make the elements of the building really barrier free. And this is really just the starting point in terms of accessibility. Really what we strive for is something more along the lines of universal design. So really elevating accessibility so that we think about how to create equity in the physical environment so that students, staff, and really the entire Wakefield community can all experience the new building in a common fashion. And then to take that one step further in a school, one of the most intriguing parts of accessibility is what we refer to as universal design for learning, or UDL. And so this is a concept and really a pedagogy that acknowledges that everyone learns in different ways. And so it's equally critical to provide a curriculum with access for those with different learning types. And as architects and educational planners, we get to provide spaces as well as furniture that can really provide opportunities and variety in the learning environment to support a full spectrum of learners.
All right. Well, as Helen mentioned, the visioning process will involve varied stakeholders and a sequential approach to exploring your educational and architectural priorities. I have a background as both a licensed architect and a K-12 educator, and SMMA and I have used this visioning process together on many projects. We're very passionate about what we do. And while I guide and facilitate what is really a big picture visioning process, Phil will also be working with smaller focus groups and work to translate all the information we're gathering into a very thoughtful architectural program. And there are key phases to this process, and we'll work with your leadership team to create a customized approach to the visioning process. Next slide. And we do have the capacity to run both in-person and virtual workshops, or a hybrid of the two. And whether virtual or in person, our approach will use real-time feedback and interaction to personalize the experience for participants. As Helen was talking about that polling platform, Mentimeter is one of the platforms we'll use in the visioning to get real-time feedback from folks. It's very interactive and engaging, and it helps to capture everybody's best thinking and build buy-in to an excitement about the project. And I know we'll be talking a little bit later about the pros and cons of the visioning in person or virtually. Next slide. And this is all about helping you to clearly articulate your educational vision and priorities. And that's going to guide the entire design process. So we want to explore with you what you do now, what your future forward learning goals are, what new programs and initiatives you want to support, and how we can help you to design a building that will support what you do now and for decades to come, be able to evolve along with you. Next slide. And as Matt discussed, one very important consideration is the design of classrooms and other learning spaces that facilitate universal design for learning on the curricular level by supporting lots of varied teaching and learning modalities and allowing students to interact with content and express what they know in varied ways. Next slide. And finally, we have learned a lot of lessons about the need for agile and adaptable learning environments over this past year. And they include the need to support social distancing when appropriate, to use every square inch of the building and support virtual and extended learning opportunities for students. And these are just some of the many issues that we'll dive into together during the visioning process.
So you're very familiar, I'm sure, at this point with the schedule. We're very comfortable with it. And I think, now is where we're going to start to put a lot more detail into this outline schedule, including forum, and some getting that educational visioning process going. Existing conditions, that's the other thing we'd really like to leap into. So we're ready and able, and can't wait to start.
And really, it was, what we focus on is really about communication, managing communication. That's Helen and I's job throughout this entire process, working within fixed parameters of schedule and budget. And we were asked during the interview, and we'll say it again here, SMMA has never failed to maintain a schedule or a budget from SD through bidding. It's also about working closely with our estimators, understanding the market, looking at lead times. There's such impact right now with the market and fluctuation, and really making sure that we're making smart decisions early on now, as this is a long process to get through. It's making sure we understand your goals and expectations at the outset of the project, and then measuring those options against them so that you can make informed decisions that you can stand behind and gain support behind. It's allowing our team of experts that we have here before you, we work closely with you. You'll see Helen and I, but we really let our team of experts meet and work on the details and get into the details with you. It's about promoting creativity and testing of ideas, but most importantly, it's really about community engagement, community knowledge sharing, transparency of information, and building trust with you. You know, we've done this with many communities, and it is the most critical part of the project for us, is that, you know, we earn your trust. And we really look forward to getting started with you and earning that trust. And then we just finished with, again, you know, we just feel lucky to work in this industry. You know, we get to explore, innovate, improve, create environments for students. And, you know, this is something that we enjoy doing every day. Sorry, not me. We enjoy doing every day, and we're looking forward to starting it with Wakefield. So I'm not sure who that is. And that was our presentation. So I will stop sharing for a moment so everybody can see each other again. And happy to take any questions you may have.
Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, let's move on, Lorraine, to the scheduling, the first visiting conference.
Yep. So we run a concurrent process. We start all of our existing conditions and site investigation the same time that we're going to start our visioning process and programming. We're collecting data both from the physical perspective as well as, you know, from the programmatic and high school needs perspective. So since obviously school's back in session, so the first thing we're going to do here is get all our team Corey checked through the town of Wakefield, and then set up a time to come out and go through that building and investigate it. Get on the ground. We have survey, we have geotechnical investigations, geoenvironmental investigations, wetland delineation, lots of base investigation level work to do. While at the same time, David and Phil want to start the visioning process. So I'll work with Left Field, with Lynn and Shane, and we'll start to put a schedule together as to what we propose. I don't know if we wanted to talk right now, Joe, about preferences for visioning sessions and programming, whether they want to be in person, virtual, or hybrid.
I guess the question I have is what are the rules? I'm Chip Tarbell. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
What are the rules now for, excuse me, for in-person meetings? Is it 25 and under, 10 and under, masked, unmasked? I don't even know what the rules are now.
Yeah. So I know that President Biden put out a new mandate today for businesses. I don't see what it has. Obviously, if we're within a school, it's masked regardless. I believe it's 25. I would need to check that. And that's why, as David said, maybe it's a hybrid. Maybe there's a, you know, we can have it be virtual and in person at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I just, what information do you guys have? We've done tons of studies. We've done tons of feasibility studies. We've done tons of, you know, investigation on the mechanicals and all of that. What do you guys have in hand?
We have everything that was done through the Dore and Whittier feasibility study to date.
Okay.
So we have that complete study.
Okay. That's probably the latest and most complete.
Okay. But with
And
that,
I'm sure things have gone downhill since then.
And I think we still, you know, our goal is, our requirement is to review that data, but we still want to put our eyes on it. You know,
yeah.
And the visioning is totally separate to the existing conditions. That's really trying to get the big sky ideas out and the goals and the opportunities and you know, what Wakefield is looking for the new Wakefield Memorial High School. David, were you going to add something?
Well, I would say that, well, first I was going to say that doing a hybrid, I think, is sometimes very challenging. That's been my experience, that either in person or virtually tends to work better. Where you get people feeling really frustrated is when they're not part of what's going on in the room and they can't really hear. But that's certainly something that we can explore. One suggestion is that we always begin the visioning process with a meeting with the leadership, the school leadership, to sort of get the lay of the land. And I think what works out very well is to do that virtually so that people can see what a virtual workshop feels like. Because in the past year and a half, we've had a lot of experience doing it. I'm running a series of workshops right now in person, and I'm having to wear a mask, and everybody in the room is having to wear a mask, and there's some frustration about that. So we can certainly, we don't have to make a decision about that now. We might want to meet with the leadership team, explain what the series of workshops entails, how many workshops we would need, and what they would look like virtually or in person. So that would be a suggestion that I have.
I think that makes a lot of sense to go that route. To
Yeah.
meet the superintendent and the leaders at the high school and get their idea what they prefer as well.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe, is Doug on tonight?
No, I
Okay.
don't see him.
Or maybe Lynn knows this answer, has the high school put together their leadership team that are going to work on this project?
No, not yet.
Maybe you can reach out to Doug, Lynn, and get him thinking about that.
And that is part of what we'll explore in the leadership, the kickoff meeting with leadership, is we'll talk about what that can look like. Generally, the leadership team might be anywhere from 6 to 15 people that are thought leaders within the district and within the school. That kickoff meeting lasts for about 2 hours. We would give an overview of what the visioning process entails. We can talk about the kind of stakeholders that we generally include. And I do think that if there's a limitation of 25 people in person, that might be a little constraining. Generally, particularly for a high school, these workshops, we have what's called an educational working group that usually engages anywhere from 40 to 60 people. And that's a mixture of high school leadership, of district leadership, of teachers and students, parents, and community partners. So we like to get a heterogeneous group. In addition to that, we can certainly share with with the entire faculty at a certain point some of the priorities that are being established and get their feedback on that. And we can also do that with the community.
There's a question, Jonathan, you have your hand up, Jonathan?
Thank you, Joe. No, I just wanted to make a comment. You know, we just went through a visioning process in support of, you know, sort of master planning for the town and other areas. And we did most of the community feedback for that through a virtual platform, which I actually think worked fairly well. We had good participation. You know, I think people felt like they were able to contribute and participate. And, you know, even though we weren't doing some of the sophisticated things, David, that you've talked about in terms of, you know, instant polling and things like that. And so I just wanted to suggest, you know, and this may be stating the obvious, but given sort of where we are with the resurgence of the Delta variant, you know, I do think as we think about this question of virtual versus in person, the one scenario that I would probably suggest taking out of the picture is an in-person engagement process alone. I think that's problematic, and you know, well, certainly I think hybrid is challenging as well. I just would suggest that whatever we do there, you know, that there's a fairly strong and well thought out virtual component to it to help maximize participation.
Great, thank you. I will say that one of the things we have noticed is the attendance at our meetings has raised significantly since we went virtual. You know, as Helen mentioned, you know, people are not looking for childcare and coverage. So we have seen the significant community input and participation go up through the virtual process.
Well, and I'll also say that we do a lot of breaking into small groups, small breakout groups in a virtual format. And within that, we have group facilitators that are from the high school or the district leadership. And so there's a lot of engagement, I think, in that process, and people have a lot of skin in the game. So we can really make these virtual experiences highly personalized, I think, and fun. And I mean, a lot of this process is about getting people excited about what the possibilities are, and just really making sure that we hear everybody's voices. And I do think that that the virtual format can be a very good place to do that.
So Joe, I will work with Lynn and we will reach out to Doug and get that high school educational leadership team set up and then start to put the schedule together. And those visioning meetings will be open to this committee, obviously, and we'll get agendas and what you can expect to accomplish. And obviously David's really good at getting notes out quickly, and we can accommodate polling even through virtual process. So I'll get working on that with Lynn tomorrow, and we'll get something put together.
Great, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. The last item I had on my agenda tonight, Joe, is the community forum. So I know when we first started working on the proposal, one of the things that we talked about doing was doing an introduction to the community at large, letting them know that this process is really starting and how they can get engaged and what they can expect from the process. And we wanted to target a date for that if we could, because we want to try and get that going before we start all these visioning meetings.
Okay, I think the best thing to do is to coordinate that with the WCAT, the school department.
Okay.
We were targeting September 23rd,
Right.
and maybe we should just run that by everybody that's on this call tonight, to see if anybody has any issues with it, and then we'll work with the school and WCAT.
Is that okay with anybody have a problem with that?
I just wanted to mention there might be a back to school night that night, and it could be actually the high school. I don't recall.
Oh, that could be a problem. We may want to kick it then to the next week. We'll take a look at the schedule and we'll go from there, all right?
And what night, I mean, there's lots of nights that there's town meetings that, so usually Thursday night is a pretty open night. I mean, there's not many.
That's what we were looking at, Chip, Thursday.
The 23rd.
Well, if the 23rd is a back to school night with the high school, that might not work. So we may have to kick it to the 30th.
That's back to
Just to
school
say
for the
30th
Galvin.
is the back to school night at the Galvin.
Will you people stop going back to school? I don't know. I mean,
Maybe we'll have to do a Tuesday night.
yeah, maybe have to do it Tuesday then. We'll have to check the schedule with the school department and WCAT.
Sounds great.
All right,
All right. And that is all we had tonight.
great.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
And
Lorraine.
we're very excited.
All right. Shane, you had some administrative matters to handle regarding the high school project.
Yeah, do we want to talk about the contract first, Joe?
Sure.
Or do you want me to jump into my stuff?
No, we can do the contract. This is for the voting members of the voting members of the Permanent Building Committee. As a result of negotiations with Lorraine and at SMMA, with Lynn and myself, we were able to negotiate a fee proposal. Lynn, do you want to go into it, or Lorraine?
I'll say that, really looking at it, we thought it was a very fair and comprehensive proposal. I sent out an email to everyone that kind of gave a little bit of an explanation of the process of negotiating it. And, again, I think it's very comprehensive and will serve this project well in terms of the needs for the various submissions that we need to make.
Lynn, you had commented on a couple of things that might come up for that use of the 440,000 for the contingency.
Yes.
Where do you think we're at with that? I mean, you think that's enough of a contingency? What do you think will be coming out of that?
I think it's a very healthy contingency compared to a lot of the projects that I've been on. And I just want, when I wrote that, I just wanted to caution people that as the various options develop, there may be things that come up that we discover that we need to investigate further. Anywhere from, a geoenvironmental issue near Beasley'sville where the wetlands are, or, various things like that may pop up as we start to hone in on the various options. And I just wanted to caution everybody that we may have some additional expenses as we go through the feasibility study and schematic design process. but that I felt we had a very healthy contingency in order to make sure that, we did our due diligence.
The other question I had is, within the contract, how broad is the contract, or should I say, how specific is the contract in regards to how many meetings, lengths of services, that type of thing? Are we comfortable that SMMA is going to do whatever it takes under that dollars with as many meetings as it takes, or where are we at with that?
Well, the MSBA, it's a standard MSBA contract, and it doesn't specifically, indicate the number of meetings or anything else, but having worked with SMMA, I can guarantee that they'll do what's necessary to get the job done and to do a good job with it.
Yeah, I have no doubt with that. I'm just curious as to how it's set up as to, so is there okay, so there's no 12 meetings or 22 community outreaches or any
No,
of that?
it's set up to make sure that you have the right amount of meetings in order to get through each phase of the feasibility study and schematic design. That's kind of more how it's written, that you need to meet and do what it takes to get through each phase of the process.
So we shouldn't expect that SMMA to be looking for themselves to be reaching into any of that contingency.
Well, I say that yes, they could, if for some reason we have an issue with, we want to do more due diligence on a site, or if we want to investigate another site, and we have their, we may want to have them do additional services with their consultants or with SMMA themselves. But it would be services that we would all agree upon and ask them about, ask them to provide a proposal for.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Any other questions regarding the SMMA proposal? I'm going to need a motion to.
Do we have, does Lynn, do you have something to put up on the screen that had the numbers, like in the email?
I can.
Or should I look to the email?
I'll put it up, guys. So that's can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that what we're doing the motion for? Or are we breaking it into the feasibility and schematic?
I wouldn't break it into the two.
Okay. So I move that we approve the contract that has been negotiated for SMMA for the Wakefield Memorial High School for the feasibility study phase, as well as the schematic design phase, for the sum of $1,178,636.
And I'll second that.
So Jason?
Yeah, it was Jason.
Someone else is talking. There's a question?
Jason just seconded the motion.
Okay. The contract itself hasn't been, I asked the town council review it quickly just to approve it. So it'll be, that motion will be subject to Tom Mullins' approval.
I will amend my motion to that effect.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Chip?
Yes.
Jace, Janine? Janine?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right, Shane, you had some other administrative things to handle?
Yeah.
The minutes, we need a motion for the minutes of the approval of the.
I move that we approve the August 12th minutes as presented and written.
Jason, you want to second it?
Yep, I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposition to approving the minutes? Hearing none. Minutes are approved.
Thank you.
The next is
Some invoices.
Three invoices.
I move that we approve left field invoice number 4 for OPM services August 1st to August 31st for the sum of $15,000.
I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Tom, unanimous. Sorry, Tom.
Whether you wanted to answer Tom or not.
Exactly.
Whether you like it or not, Tom, that's it.
And then Joe, we
I
just have
move that
two.
we approve invoice number 300099078 for the Wakefield daily item for the sum of $560.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
and Tom.
Yes.
All right, unanimous.
I move that we approve for the Wakefield daily item invoice number 300099244 for the sum of, I think it's $424.
$448.
$448, excuse me.
All right, I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank
Joe,
you.
can I just ask Shane one quick question?
Oh, if it's quick.
Is every team that we're gonna bring on or consultant to bring on have some Irish accented woman or man running the group?
There's
Is there-
there's a
is there
there's a
anything
lot
we
of us
should know
around,
about?
Chip. Yeah.
Hey, Chip, I think that's politically
Yeah.
incorrect.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
If you like the accents, I can bring more.
Shane does, no problem.
Yeah.
I got
Shane is
you
the one that
covered there,
brings them all in.
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
That's anything else in the high school?
So just quickly, Joe, this is the high school budget for the feasibility
Oh,
study.
yeah, we need a budget
Um,
revision request.
Yeah, the original budget is 2 million. In this column, it was the OPM, the architect, engineer, you have environmental and site and other. After the left field contract was signed, there was a saving of $25,000. Under the architect, there's a saving under their basic service of $345. The environmental and site, which is a lot of the testing, we had a little bit of an overage on that. But the mechanism to change that budget with SMMA so we can build these line items is a budget revision request. So I attached the standard budget revision request with the package I sent out today. So we just want a vote to approve this, to send it into MSBA and realign that budget to actually use the committed values, the contract values that we have.
I move that we approve budget revision request number 1 as shown.
Thank you.
And I will second that. Thank
Is
you.
there any discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
and Tom,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. That's all I had, Joe. Thank you.
All right. Anybody have anything else on the high school? That's portion of the meeting is over. We will now go to the public safety building. If you want to share the screen on that, Shane. And in the meantime, I also, in part of the agenda, I put down that there would be an update on the DPW facility. That will not occur tonight. They aren't quite ready for their presentation, and will occur at our next meeting.
So I would like to say thank you for the opportunity to present to you tonight, and we will see you soon.
Okay, Lauren, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we can be quick. We've just got some administrative actions. We'll just talk a little bit about the schedule that changed a bit after last month. I just want to update you on the trade contractor pre-qualification. And then I think Janet may have an update and also Dave from Bond. So I'll go through my items quickly. First item is the approval of the public safety meeting minutes of August 12th.
I move that we approve the August 12th PBC minutes for the public safety building as written and presented.
I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Is there any objections? Hearing none. Minutes are approved.
Thank you. Next item is the invoices. So we have 4 invoices tonight that were included with the package I sent out today.
I move that we approve left field invoice number. Can you leave that screen
Sorry.
back up? Thanks. Finding it on my phone is tough.
Well, you having it big, it helps you, Chip. You know, the bigger numbers do help.
I need it, Joe.
Yeah.
The invoice,
Yeah.
I move that we approve left field invoice number 10. They're also always at the top, very interestingly.
Yes, it is. Isn't it?
Invoice date 8/31, OPM services August 1st, August 31st, for the sum of $10,000.
I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
and Phil.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to make you last there, Tom, so I'm,
Thank you.
no problem. I'm
I
moving.
move that we approve HKT Architects 8-022-023, invoice date 9/8/21 for basic designer services, August 1st to August 31st for the sum of $85,159.34.
I will second.
Any discussion? This is in accordance with the budget, I assume.
It is, Joe, yeah,
All right.
for design development and construction documents.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Unanimous.
I move that we approve HKT Architects invoice number 7-022-023, invoice dated 8/4/21 for supplementary designer services, August 1st through August 31st, for the sum of $2,255.
So Chip, that invoice is actually September 8th. That's a typo.
September 8th. Okay, sorry.
Okay, I will second as September 8th.
So this has to do with reconciliation, is that right?
Yeah, this is back when we reconciled the DD estimate. The consultants are just catching up. They're usually a month or so behind in their invoicing.
Oh, okay. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Jason,
Yep.
and Tom.
Yes.
Unanimous.
I move that we approve bond building for pre-construction services. Invoice number 03 for pre-construction services, dated 8/31/21 for the term of August 1st through August, I'm going to assume 31st.
Yep.
2021 for the sum of $16,122.02.
Okay, I'll second that.
Any discussion? That again is within the original contract numbers, I assume?
It is, yeah, that brings them to the end of their DD services.
It does, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Ethan,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you.
Shane, if it's here, I apologize. But if it's not, I'd like to include it in the future when we pay. I'd love to see a summary of the line items that these are going against. How much is, like you just told us that, they're done now.
Sure.
With that portion. I'd love to see a budget, or at least understand how much is left in some of these line items as we get bills.
Sure, yeah, I can do that. It's on here, Chip, but I'll include the project
If you can
budget.
just do a simpler summary, because trying to read that on my phone again is mission impossible.
So yeah, bond have about $32,500 remaining on their pre-construction contract services.
Yeah, but if you can just kind of, even like right
I'll,
below the invoices, just kind of give us line items of where they're going and what's left on that line item.
Absolutely, I'll include that next time.
Thanks.
Just wanted to update on the design schedule. Last meeting, we thought that we might be able to push that town meeting to November 13th. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. So town meeting is on November 6th. We've talked to Janet and her team, and they're going to push to get those bid documents done by early October. We'll go out to bid on October 8th, get our bids back around November 3rd. So that we will have bids in hand for that town meeting on November 6th. We'll turn it around pretty quickly, but those will be hard numbers that we'll get a couple of days before town meeting, and that we'll be able to bring to town meeting. But unfortunately, we've compressed the schedule as much as we can. But we will be able to bid and get you hard numbers, but we won't have a lot of time to kind of review them before town meeting on November 6th.
Okay.
I think as long as we have time for a meeting to discuss what number you think we have to go to town meeting with is the important part. Maybe we'll not have vetted all the bids, but at least come up, and we'll put a contingency on that as well. I mean, we're not going to go down to the penny.
So yeah, so those trade contract numbers, Chip, we're required to take the low bid. There's no negotiation. So about a half the value of the construction will be, hard bid. We take the lowest bidder on that. And I've talked to David about how Bond are going to bid theirs. So they may still have some negotiation and fine tuning and best and finals to come back, but we'll certainly be in a position to go with a number that is realistic and that is responsible at town meeting.
I suggest that we probably meet on the 4th of November.
Yeah.
Which will be the Thursday prior to town meeting, so we can discuss those real hard numbers that come in.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that all right, everybody?
I don't know if I can be there. Do I need to be there, Joe? Is that for me?
No, this is just the.
Okay, great. Okay.
But you should weigh in on the numbers at some point. You may not have to be at the meeting.
Okay.
But we should know your opinion of what we should be asking for at that.
Oh, sure.
Meeting.
Oh, sure. I'll be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just the other item I had tonight. So we've been going through the pre-qualification of the trade contractors. I explained at the last meeting or the meeting before that there's 13 trade contracts that were required to go out and pre-qualify subcontractors under the Mass General laws. So we made those requests for qualifications available on August 15th, I think, and we've gotten about 84 responses back. Our request for a copy of that RFQ. Qualifications are due next Wednesday at Leftfield's office. So once I get those, I'll break them up and I'll distribute them. We're required to have a minimum of 4 people on that pre-qualification committee. Myself represent Leftfield. Bond will be represented as the CM. We'll have somebody from HKT on that, and we need to appoint somebody from the town also. talk to Dave and Dario. So myself and Dario and Dave will do much of the leg work on this. We'll review all the proposals that we get in. It's a pretty small project. All of these contractors, I think, will be pre-qualified. Certainly out of the 84 requests we've got, I think there's only one or two that I'm not familiar with and that I think we may have to take a close look at to see whether they're qualified or not. So when those come in on September 15th, ourselves and Bond will do a quick review. We'll have a quick meeting with somebody from HKT just to get their input. And we'd like somebody from the town as well to be part of that meeting. And then we'll come back with a recommendation of contractors to pre-qualify and allowed to bid on the trades in which they've submitted for. So Joe, we'd like somebody to volunteer. It's not, as I said, it's not going to be a heavy lift, probably one meeting, two at the most. And ourselves and Bond will do most of the work for this.
Shane, when do you think the meetings are going to be? During the day or early evening or?
I think we can be flexible, Chip, late afternoon or evening. I've been through this and it takes about an hour. We'll score them. I think I explained last time, pre-qualification is a pass-fail. It's a preset criteria. The contractors submit the qualifications. There's points allocated for each criteria. If they get below a 70, they don't qualify. If they get above a 70, they do qualify. So, we really only need to look at people who are on the cusp of that. If somebody gets an 85, we really don't need to dive into it because they're well qualified. If somebody gets a 69, maybe we take a good look at that to make sure that, we don't want them to bid and they don't qualify. So I think that will happen for 3 or 4 of these guys, Chip. So maybe an hour meeting, some late afternoon or early evening, probably the last week of September.
I'm happy to volunteer, Joe, if needed.
Well, you win. Thanks, Chip. Does anybody else wanted to volunteer? I mean, there could be probably more than one if you needed, if anybody else is interested. I don't want to preclude it to Mr. Tarbell only.
I'd be interested.
All right.
Is that Phil?
No, that was Tom.
Tom? Good.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so I'll reach out to Tom and Chip directly with the process and schedule.
Thank you very much.
All right. So let's just that again. So that's all I had. And when I do get the submissions next week, I'll send it out to the whole committee just to let you know who's submitted.
Okay.
Before we do it.
All right. Before we, Janet, you had something you wish to discuss?
Not really. I just, give you an update. We're working on the documents, obviously trying to, make up the 2 weeks. The consultants are working, they're all a little concerned about losing 2 weeks of time. So I could say anticipate a robust addenda just to make up for that, but we'll get it done. We're doing a lot of coordination at this time. We met with the department to review a bunch of details of furniture and things like that. The only thing I'd like to bring up, and I think Shane and I briefly talked about this yesterday about bringing it up, is in the department quite knows they in one of their X's onto the side street, they have a lot of recycling and containers, quite large ones, and they're where they do their paper shredding and things like that. So we have some locations for the shredders in the new plans, but we do not have recycling. It's a lot. And so we think that they're in an egress, and I have to close my eyes when I walk in that space because, it's illegal to have things like that in an egress. So we need to think about, they need to think about, or we need to think about collectively how to deal with that. Shane was there for that meeting as well. Ideally, they would go outside perhaps, but that is on that side entry. And so I don't know what we can do about that other than to potentially build some sort of a platform to contain that. But that's an issue that we saw. And so Shane suggested I bring it up tonight. I don't really know how to, we don't really know how to handle it quite well. So that's the only outstanding sort of issue there. I think we resolved all the issues with the dispatch and furniture and cabinetry and things like that. And we're coordinating. So that's it. We're moving along.
Yeah, so this is just the recycling bins, the
Yeah.
wheelie bins are in an egress path. So, we suggested we put some sort of platform outside the doors out of the egress path, but it would be a scope increase.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it'll be very expensive. It's probably a concrete pad and some fencing around it, maybe a 6x6 or 8x6 pad with fencing out on Center Street, but wanted to bring it up to the committee before.
So I'm not a big fan of putting it outside. What about in the garage?
I had suggested that we are making 2 new storerooms in the Sally Port. It was an afterthought. I haven't talked to the department about it. I think they were planning on using those, or at least one of them, for bicycle storage. And I'll have to go back and look at the size and the number of bins we have and see whether they could fit there.
I don't really think they're probably going to fit. Those are pretty tight little spaces. That think of your cell block, what they fit in. They're not huge.
Question.
Yeah.
Chief
Yes,
Scory.
Chiefs.
We moved the bicycles upstairs off the Sally Port. What about underneath the stairwell where the bicycles are now? Can we put the recycling bins there?
Well, technically, and I'll read the code report on this, but technically you're not supposed to store anything in an egress stair. Certainly nothing flammable like paper recycling. So, you really should keep stairs. I worked on a fire station that they used to store their gas fired snow blowers in it and gas mowers. And they said they continuously cited themselves. But they had nowhere else to put it. So think of it that way. Really shouldn't I would think of it as they're movable objects. And if they move in a fire and an emergency, if they're shifted out of location and there's a condition where they can't really see that well, smoke filled, anything, they could be an impediment to making it out successfully. So that's what I'm worried about. Yeah.
I think what Chief Score, you're talking about that storeroom down in the garage to the left if you're looking at the overhead door.
No. When you walk in the station, when you walk to go downstairs, the main stairwell, all our bicycles are stuffed under there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know where you are. Yeah.
I just don't think there's enough space in the garage to put the recycling bins. To be honest, I can't even think where we would put them.
The only other place is that, where we're adding the, and I've just thought of this right now as Shane was talking about it. So right now where you have that enclosed storage, that triangular kind of space on the left as you come in, and where we're putting the proposed office toilet room for dispatch, we're leaving a little area that we enclosed as a closet or something. That's maybe a possibility. I don't know what you had designated for that, sort of a shared space, but maybe we could look at that. All I'm saying is, if you choose not to do anything, I have to close my eyes. You have to move the mat to get, to really get certified for this building as an egress pathway. So, and
I think we need to find a solution that's not in the egress path.
Yes, I totally agree.
We can't have a public safety building.
Correct.
Yeah, unsafe.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
So,
and if it goes outside, we'll camouflage it well. How often do they get picked up?
Yeah, this is Phil. We've had a ton of conversations about the dumpster area and the ability to pick that up, and whether or not there has to be changes to the actual physical dumpsters to roll away. It makes most sense to have recycling in the trash area with an enclosure already. And I wonder, the town was going to look into the trash and whether or not there were options to reduce the dumpster and pick them up more frequently. That may create more room to be able to put the recycling toters if you had a smaller dumpster in that enclosure. So I wonder if that's been explored.
It was, Phil. I looked at that with Joe Conway, and we reached out to the dumpster company, and the dumpster size, the company doesn't have a truck in town to pick up the smaller size dumpsters. So we have to remain with the size dumpster we have, we were told.
Okay.
We've changed the angle of the dumpster enclosure so they can fit that truck in with the Sally Port being bumped out, but we can't reduce the size of the dumpsters.
Yeah, I'll take another look. I mean, I think, Phil, that is what happened, and that's what it looks like. So think up on the corner, instead of the dumpster being square to the building, it's on an angle. Maybe, Shane, there's a little bit of area on the side of that towards the intersection to tuck something in. I don't know. I'll have to look. It's hard. It's not an easy, you know, you guys know how pinched the site is on every level. So anyhow, so.
Stop writing those tickets and generating paper.
Yeah. So, okay. So, well, I just wanted to point out,
we need to explore that, but
yeah, we'll explore it, but we do really need to get it out of the egress pathway.
Okay.
At least until I'm gone. And you get your building, you get your everything done with the building inspector.
We just need it out of the egress path.
Yeah, we do. But lots of things happen after architects leave. So, and you know, recycling wasn't a big deal, obviously 20 years ago, and it is a big deal now, and there are a lot of them. So I think the fire department probably has them too, but they have the apparatus space probably to tuck theirs in. So that's the only other thing that we sort of kind of, as we were touring around and going through all the spaces one by one with Lieutenant Rubelet and the rest of the guys, that was really a great day out there. We made a lot of progress. We picked up on this, that it was there, so we need to deal with it. So other than that, that's about it for me. So.
Okay. Bon, David, did you have something?
And then, yeah, Dave, do you want me to open or do you want to go?
You can open. I just want to be 100% clear on how deep dive we're going to get in.
Sure. So just following up on our last meeting when we were over budget, HKT did issue a 60% construction document set for Bond to do a cost check on. This is just, again, checking the design as it progresses, make sure there was no scope creep, and that we're still within that number that we reported at the last meeting. So they didn't go back. They didn't have time to do a full, 3-week estimate and reconciliation. But Bond and David and his bond team did go back and do a cost check, just make sure there's been no more scope creep or price increases. So we got that number back today. It's hot off the press. But David, if you want to just speak to it.
Sure. So as Shane mentioned, we analyzed the document progress, looked at things that have moved up and down since the last go around, and we felt that all of the ups and downs were well within the design and estimating contingency that had been established at the last estimate. We did some minor just checking of some things, and it all looked pretty good. We rolled in all the alternates. Now that there's no alternates, it's going to be all one base bid job, and we came up with a number that was pretty close to the last round with the alternates put in at 9.16 million. That's right where we expected to be. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Any questions? No questions? Craig, did you want to do a quick report on your visit to the North Andover Dispatch Center?
So yeah, so we went up today, Lieutenant Rubelet and I, just to scope out their area. It's not exact to what we're going to have, but it's similar. And they showed us a couple of the consoles that one of the vendors had showed as a possibility for us, and they seem to work well. The dispatchers that are working there now spoke highly of the consoles that they have. It is something that I know Janet, we had a couple of different designs for the dispatch to move the door, the entrance door that we have now. It's going to be problematic because it's in the middle of where the dispatch center would be, and it would. I know we don't have that design up right now, but the door that's there now to get into where records is now that will be dispatch, it's going to need to either move forward or it's going to need to move back to be able to create enough room for both dispatch consoles.
I believe we've done that, right? We've moved the door back to the kitchenette and realigned the kitchenette.
Yep, we did about 6 other options, and I think we settled with essentially moving the door for you folks that just get an orientation towards the garage. So we're moving it, and there's a column right there, so we have to move it around the garage. So it's created a bunch of ADA, AAB issues with pull and pushes, but I think we've got that resolved. So we changed the shape of the kitchen and sort of moved the consoles to the outside walls, and there's a bigger space in the center. Is that, Greg, what you would? Yeah,
because in the current situation, they'd be pushed really close together. So with the new design that Janet has, it gives about as much space as what Andover has now, and it's very comfortable for those dispatchers. So that was good to see. They do have the TV monitors going across the top, like we had talked about, and Janet was putting in space for that. And with the door being pushed to the back of the room, that will allow us more monitor space going across. So it was kind of what we envisioned, and we were able to see that. And they have, they're monitoring all different stuff. I think they have 7 TVs in theirs that are going around, but they're using larger, like 65-inch TVs, which is nice, but at the same time, they really only have room for about 7. If we go with smaller TVs, probably like a 55, it might give us room to expand if we need to, as we have to monitor different things, different schools, things like that. So, I would say overall that the North Andover setup worked pretty well, and it was using a lot of the things that the vendor had kind of drawn out in a schematic. So.
Yeah, I just want to add, because we have an existing condition, we have limitations on height. We're using windows, things like that. So we've redone those elevations. I think you probably have them. So the monitors, as typically we would put all the monitors straight across the top. We don't have the room to do that. So they might be stacked a little bit more, but we're also going to make sure that the side walls where there's walking space and accessibility areas for wheelchairs and all that, we'll have we'll make sure the walls can hang more monitors in the future, should you keep adding them. So we've redesigned the cabinetry to work with this as well from the initial, maybe you looked at the DD set on, we've redone those elevations. That was all part of that meeting where we met with the deputy chief and lieutenant and the chief. They were all there, and we talked about the details of that. So we'll take another look at it. We'll make sure you see that again, Deputy Chief, and you can see what we've done and what we have to work with there. So you do have to make adjustments when you're starting in an existing space. So okay.
So that was kind of a quick view of North Andover, and it was productive. I think we got to see, kind of have a little bit of a vision, not exactly what our setup is, but similar enough to be able to kind of push forward with what we're doing. I think we're on the right, after seeing North Andover, I feel like what we have is on the right track.
Good.
Joe, did you have any other questions? I know you were talking about
sorry,
trying to go.
I muted myself.
Yeah.
I'm good. Chief Scory, do you have anything?
No, we went over Janet and I mean, Shane was in there last week, and we accomplished quite a bit going over schematics. IT was there, which was good because we need them. Thank Craig and Lieutenant Rebele for going up to North Andover today and taking a look at that. Trying to find dispatch consoles is not as easy as we anticipated. Their designs are all different than what we thought they would be, and it's a little things you don't think will be difficult that are. So thank them for going up there today.
Great. Chief Sullivan, anything? Guess not. All right. Anybody have anything else?
Just, can I have a question about the working group? What's the schedule for working group meetings this month, Shane?
We're we're kind of wrapped up. We have a meeting next week, Philip, that we're just going to go over hardware with the facilities guys. But I think we're pretty much wrapped up with the working group. Well, Janet just gets going and gets those bid documents ready for October 8th. So certainly you're welcome. I'll send an invite out for next Wednesday, but it's just going to be to go through some of the hardware with Chris Pierce and Joe Conway, perhaps. Make sure we match what's there, just door by door.
Okay, and I have a question for Janet. You made a comment about a robust addenda. Well, what do you mean? Are you saying a bid addendum, like after you give the bid documents that you're going to be issuing revisions to that? Or
yeah. I mean, it's pretty typical to have addenda as questions come in.
Yeah.
And, people, when people ask questions, that always makes you look at something and then you coordinate. So we're coordinating as much as we can, but, those last couple of weeks of a construction thing is all we're doing is coordination, and we're losing 2 weeks of time. So we're going to be doing that time. So, but it's pretty common. It's pretty common practice to see, whole sets of things redone. Everything gets bubbled and described in words and in drawings now. So it's not a big deal, but it is going to, I would say it's going to be robust because 2 weeks is a lot of time at the end of a project to lose. And we already had a tight schedule, so we were always really nervous, and now we have 2 weeks less of that. So that's how I meant. And I just wanted to prepare people. I don't want you to be alarmed when you see that we're reissuing 20 drawings or 30 drawings. It's because it could be a simple bubble on a sheet that they're clarifying an issue with. So that's the way it works nowadays with the E-line online bidding process. So
what's the time period that they're allowed to, for RFIs to come in? Because it's a very short bid period here that they have these documents. So like, what is the expectation? Like when are you going to send the bid invitations out, and when do you expect the RFI deadline to be, and when will bids be due again?
So the deadline for questions is usually a week before the bids are due. We'll try and turn those around in 2 days, so they got 2 to 3 days to react to any addendum.
Yeah, there's a legal an actual legal description of how many. I can't think of it right offhand, but we usually it's saying we have about 3 weeks for the filed sub bids here.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's usually about a 3-week process. So we'll wait a few days in. If we get a flurry of questions, we'll put on addenda right away. If there's something major missing or spec section or something that's been delayed, we'll issue that right away, and then we'll hold off and issue a bigger one. Potentially some week and a half into it or something. So it really depends on what kind of questions we get, and it could be that the consultants say, I didn't finish this whole thing, and or not enough that they're satisfied, and we'll issue an addendum on our own without questions. So I've issued on public projects 6-7 addendas sometimes in 3 weeks, depending on the level of what we need. So hopefully we won't have that many. I'm not hoping for 3 but it's a much easier process than it used to be. We collect the documents, put in a format that we use all the time, send it off to either Project Dog or Bid Docs Online, whoever we're going to use, and then they issue it, immediately, almost, turn it around, and it's available to and because you're pre-qualifying bidders, you're not reaching out to people that you're not really sure. You have a targeted group, whether it's the 84 that Shane talked about, or it's 80 in the end. It's only going to go out to those 80 people. So they'll be looking for it. They'll know the schedule. They'll know all the dates, and they'll be looking for things, and they'll get notified. So.
Okay. Okay. It's a tight schedule. We all know.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to lose bidders or get horrible pricing because people just throwing numbers out there because they haven't had a chance to really. And that's what I'm most concerned about this time frame, is that we're going to be getting inflated numbers because people really won't have the time and responses back from their subs and trades to give us good numbers. But it is what it is. It sounds like, because we need to get to this town meeting, and that's our goalpost here. But it's just a concern. And I know we all.
Oh, that's a legitimate concern and a real risk.
Yeah. The 3 weeks is good, though. I mean, keep not reducing the south sub bidder. We normally do 3 weeks, so we haven't reduced that. So I feel comfortable with that, and then it all in Dave's hands to pull up the end, the rare part of it and his part of it. He'll be like, a lot of times the general bidders don't even look until they're 3 weeks in, and then they look. Whereas Dave and his group are looking now. So hopefully, right,
Okay.
Dave? so
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree, but yes, yes. I think, we're going to have some challenges. If there's several addenda and they're big, you may lose some bidders. There's no doubt about it.
yeah, absolutely. That's very true. I mean, 84, you're never going to get all 84 to bid,
No, if this was a $100 million school project, you'd it'd be a less likelihood that you'd lose someone, but where it's not the biggest job and it's not the most desirable project for some of these bidders.
Yes.
If the bid process gets muddy, they may just say it's not worth it, I'm out.
Yeah, that's true. And I think the other thing, Shane, you could speak to is the notion of, if we don't get 3 bidders in a category, what happens? You might want to address that
so, well, just looking at the list, I'm pretty confident we will. So we have to pre-qualify 3 bidders in each category. We're not required to get 3 bids.
Right.
And we have coverage in all trades. I think a couple of trades, we just have 4 people who have responded. If we don't pre-qualify 3 people in a particular trade, we have to re-advertise. I've built that into my schedule already. We'll know on the 15th if we're not going to be able to pre-qualify 3 contractors, but re-advertise right away. So we'll be able to get the re-advertisement out there and get qualifications back in before we bid, if that's the case. If after the second time you advertise, you don't get 3 pre-qualified trade contractors, you can give it to the construction manager, and they can go out and get pricing themselves from their group of subcontractors who may or may not be in that trade contractor pool, but you're not required to follow the same Mass General laws as you would if it was a trade contract.
And we don't have an elevator, which we never get 3. So there we go. That's good news.
I think floors and ACT, we have 4 contractors in each of those, which are not critical trades anyway.
I wouldn't expect more than that regardless.
I mean, they're the same 4 you see on every project. But we have good coverage in the MEPs, which is good. We have good coverage in masonry, windows, glass and glazing. We have tons of people, so we have coverage, and we'll know next week.
Great. All right. Anybody got anything else? Next meeting, because the school will have those back to school nights. I would suggest we probably, and I don't know if we need to meet before like October 7th, which might be the next appropriate meeting. There will obviously be that high school beginning of the visioning process. Does anybody think we need to meet before the 7th of October?
I don't think so.
No, I don't either. Okay.
No.
All right.
I mean, we'll post and have all the information for the visioning, and people can join that and do whatever
And
they
if
want.
something comes up, we can always do it, but
I don't think we need
tentatively,
to
let's put
schedule.
down October 7th. Okay.
So at this point, we have October 7th and November 4th. We actually have our next 2 meetings set.
Correct.
Great.
Anybody got anything else?
Yes, I move that we adjourn.
That's a very good motion. And
You'll
Jason,
second that yourself?
I'll second it, and everybody just click leave meeting because I'm hungry. All right.
Me too. Me too. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thanks to everybody.
Yeah.
Have a great night.